I just want to point out that we had about 6 or 8 letters from trade associations representing federal contractors, including the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, urging people to vote no on our amendment, and yet it passed anyway. And so, but it did shock me a little bit that those businesses were not trying to raise the performance of their businesses, but actually just try to block their accountability. Mr. Hiltonsmith.
Thank you, Representative Ellison, and members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Robert Hiltonsmith, and I'm a policy analyst at DEMOS, which is a public policy organization working for an America where we all have an equal say in our democracy and an equal chance in our economy. And I'm happy to be here today to testify on federal contracting, which, as you all know, is not only one of the largest ways the federal government interacts with the private sector economy, but is a really ripe opportunity for the government to actually incentivize the private sector to create middle-class jobs. So as my colleague Ms. Walter mentioned, federal contracting reaches nearly every corner of the private sector. You know, about a fifth of all private sector workers work for firms that do some federal contracting. But in our recent report, Underwriting Good Jobs, we chose to focus on kind of a subset of these firms, and we looked at firms for which federal contracting represented 10% or more of their yearly revenue. So we call these firms federally supported firms, and they accounted for 78% of all federal contracting in 2013. So you can see a lot of most of the dollars are going to firms that rely really heavily on federal contracting. And these federally supported firms, which include many of the largest private companies, collectively employ more than 6.6 million workers and brought in more than $1 trillion in revenue in 2013. And they span all the major industries, but are really concentrated in manufacturing, administrative, waste management services, insurance, the like. And because federal contracts are almost exclusively awarded to the lowest bidder, without consideration of bidding firms' employment policies and health and safety records, the current federal contract process actually incentivizes firms to minimize costs in any way possible, often at the expense of their workers. That's assuredly exactly why you receive those letters, because they don't have to pay a dime more than they already are. So we found that that almost 3.5 million workers at these federally supported firms, which is over half their total workforce, earns wages at or below 150% of the federal poverty line for a family of 4. So a big chunk of all of these firms that are heavily dependent on federal dollars are not earning living wages. By contracting the lowest bidder, our government is not only contributing to the epidemic of low-wage employment, it's actually subsidizing that low-wage employment, since many of these workers, these same workers, are forced to rely on federal safety net programs. We calculate that low-wage employees of these federally supported contracting firms cost the federal government more than $3.6 billion a year in EITC, Medicaid, and SNAP spending. So additionally, as we've all talked about, these federally supported firms are also some of the most egregious violators of the country's wage and safety laws. And according to this same Senate Help Committee report that we're all citing, one of the companies assessed the 200 largest penalties for health, safety, and wage laws between 2007 and 2012. 49 of those were federal contractors. They've paid a total of $196 million in penalties, but these same 49 firms were awarded $81 billion in federal contracts in 2012, which is 16% of all the contracting done in that year. So, we're really heavily rewarding these firms that not only pay bad wages, cost us money, and, violate really important health and safety laws in a really major way. So, our federal tax dollars should not be underwriting low-wage jobs and legal workplace practices. However, we could change contracting firms' behavior by changing the process by which contracts are awarded, by barring firms who violate labor laws from bidding on federal contracts and giving preferential bidding to qualified firms who pay highest wages and offer the best benefits. The federal contracting process could engender a race to the top rather than a race to the bottom. Through an executive order, the President can empower our federal contracting authorities to add these and other requirements to the bidding process. Such an order would be far from unprecedented. President Johnson, through executive order 11-246, barred contractors from discriminating on any of their employment decisions, not just those directly paid for with contracting dollars. So we can ask the President to really affect these entire firms. And such an executive order to promote good jobs and raise workplace standards in our contracting footprint would be a major step towards the President's central goal of rebuilding the American middle class.
Mr. Hiltonsmith, thank you very much. Mr. Hiltonsmith, thanks a lot. Unfortunately, there is no time left on the clock. There are 312 people who have not voted, so they're not going to close the board without us getting over there. But we actually, the 15 minutes we have to get to the floor to vote are out. So I don't think we're going to have much time to do any questioning today, but I think if there's any members here who want to ask a quick question, we might be able to leave, but I'll defer to anyone who has a question they want to ask, and then we'll...
Tell us what the status of the case for Department of Labor is.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Okay. I just want to thank our experts, and I want to especially thank Edilicia and Carla Quesada, also Carla Welter and Robert Hiltonsmith. Do we have your report, Robert? You did a underwriting job.
We'll get to everybody.
Okay. I want to be sure, but I really thank so much the workers for standing up for yourselves and giving us the opportunity to stand with you. Thank you very much.
And there was a question, what's the status of the cases?
So my name is Paco Fabian. I work with the Good Jobs Nation campaign. The status of the DOL complaints on wage theft is, honestly, we don't know. We know that they've investigated. We know that investigators have gone into both Union Station and the Reagan Building to talk to the employers. But in the case of the Reagan Building, it's been over a year, and we have not heard anything from the Department of Labor.
Well, we can follow up, and we will. But I think, you want to say something, Mark, before we wrap up? I just want to say this. You know, this is a very important issue. It's also a hidden issue. A lot of people don't know how bad it is. And if we're paying people $7.25 and they're not even paying them that, then we're really abusing the public, and there's no doubt why we have such income inequality. So you guys, on behalf of the Progressive Caucus, thank you very much. Thanks to Good Job Nation. Thank Paco Fabian and Joe Giavarzi, and thank all of you for coming. And we'll be in touch. All right.